Hi everyone, welcome back. This is another scenario now based on the last lot of project management processes that we have been going through as part of the project management body of knowledge. And this is really great because it ties all of the other processes together that we've been going through. And of course, as we mentioned, the processes themselves will not change, even though the environment changes that you are working in. And that's what makes this so absolutely wonderful to learn for your career, whether it's in projects or just in normal organizational working as well. Very, very powerful stuff. So we've been through our initial things up to quality, but now we're looking at resources, communicating. How are we communicating to our project's stakeholders? What are the risks involved? We're going to need to know these. Procurement. This is a big one for our project, if you remember, and we'll check out what that project is if you have forgotten. But if we're moving buildings, we're going to need a lot of procurement, buying things, hiring things, and of course our stakeholders. So the stakeholders themselves, and we need to know who they are and make sure they are engaged as we're going through our project. So as you recall, we're moving 200 people within a function to a new building with computers, telephony systems, and meeting rooms. And as usual, because it's a project, it could be any type of change that we wanted to make. And it could be small, it could be large, it could be web design, it could be software, or it could be shed design or car design, or any other physical product as well. So here's an example of our building that we might be moving into, just to get a nice visual of that. And as we've said, we've been through all of these things already. We've created the scope, we've created the project management plan, and that will be an iterative process. We'll be improving that as we're going along. We've got the schedule, the high-level schedule. We've got the budget based on all of the activities, and we've got the quality management plan. And remember our requirements traceability matrix. So we're matching our requirements back to our project scope so that we understand what has been met and what has not been met for our customers. So now that we've done all those things, it's time for us to start gathering the resources required for this change. And this can be people within our area. So remember those areas were our computer area, telephony area, real estate area for the physical items, desks, chairs, etc. So we need the people, but we also need the physical resources as well. And that's where we're going to start to need procurement, because we're going to need to procure those items and buy them or hire them as appropriate. So this is where a lot of these processes will start to intertwine. But first of all, with our people, we perform a resource assignment matrix, or RAM. This is also known as a RACI, or as a good example of a RACI, where we've got who's responsible, who's accountable, who needs to be consulted, and who needs to be informed. And this just shows who needs to do what on our project, who's involved and who needs to do what. We also hold a quick team building exercise to build up our team, make sure that everyone is good, or has a better chance of working together. And let's say, we try to do a fun little exercise where everyone guesses the cost of the building space that we're moving to, and maybe someone wins a small little prize or something. But there are many different team building exercises, and it's good to just do a little one as you kick off your project with all of your different stakeholders coming from different areas and now working together. And also to keep that engagement high, we hold a twice weekly working group for all of those people, so the leaders and our project sponsor, group meetings for each area to give an update on how they're going with their particular area, to keep them accountable and to keep them engaged. So here's an example of that RACI, responsible, accountable, consulted and informed. So who's responsible for this particular item, collecting requirements, who's responsible for submitting change requests, who's responsible for developing the test plan or the quality plan, so making sure that everything matches up as the customer wanted it in the first place. Now we're starting to intertwine some of these processes as well. So we perform a stakeholder engagement matrix to see who we need to engage more often. We've got our stakeholders list, so where are they currently? Are they engaged? Are they neutral? Are they leading or supporting our change? If they're not supporting our change, how do we get them to be supporting our change? Do we need to communicate with them more? Do we need to communicate with them in a different way? Just noting this down is a nice way to sort of put it in writing and make sure that we understand where everyone fits. And this feeds into our communication management plan. of course, as well, because we note the stakeholders and all the ways that we are going to be communicating with them. So initially for us, this includes the working group meeting, twice a week, remember? And let's email a project report once a week to our project team and our sponsor as well, so they're happy and they understand that we're moving forward and making progress. And then also go live communications to each area when they're ready to move, giving them the instructions on how to move and what to do. So now we can flesh out our procurement management plan, noting that each area will liaise with the procurement department. So we've got a procurement department in our organization. They organize the things that we buy and the people that we hire. And so with that, we need all of the different teams. We've got our project sponsor, the functional manager, if you recall. Then we've got the teams under her, and we've got the person in charge of the computers, person in charge of the physical real estate, person in charge of the telephony systems and the computer systems as well. And so we need those leaders and the people who are leading that part for our project to liaise with the procurement department. And we can help facilitate those discussions. So we can set them up, we can facilitate that meeting with with all those people involved to start figuring out how to get those items and how much it's going to cost. So we run the initial risk meeting as well because we need to start, and that's with the project leads at the same time. So as we said, as a project manager, you don't need to know everything, but you do need the people involved in your team to have that expertise. And that's what we're doing here. We're gathering that expertise all the time and working with them because they know their area the best. So we work with them and a risk specialist this time who's an expert in risk. So again, we don't need to be a risk expert, but we do need someone who can be a risk expert for us, noting all of the risks and the potential controls. So what are the risks in our project? Or maybe the building's not going to be available on time. How do we control that? Maybe this computer system needs to be upgraded. How do we control that? Maybe we're not going to be able to move this team, but we are going to be able to move this team because of a certain constraint. How do we write a control in place for that? Those are our risks and our controls. And then we catch up once a week with risk just to monitor those risks until go live. Now we also assign those controls. So once we've got those risks and how we're going to control them, we assign those controls to the respective business leads again. So we're making sure that they're in control of their areas and they want their areas to do well. So we assign those controls to them. For example, maybe key people might leave. And so how do we control that? What's in place? Can we train up an understudy, for example, someone who could take over if a key person left? How do we control prices changing? Maybe we lock things in at a certain price now. Maybe that's the control, but whatever it is you decide with those leaders. Training schedules. Maybe training schedules might clash, and that's where we've got those two different teams needing to come across at a different time, and that's how we make that control for that particular risk. All of these things, they need to own those things and make sure that they happen, and we'll check in with them at least once a week, or definitely through the working group twice a week as well, to make sure that they're still on track. Now we tie all of these processes back together because all of those things will tie back into the activities that we're doing, and those activities will go into our project schedule, and as long as it doesn't impact we need to monitor that it doesn't impact our cost or our scope as well. So when we're getting closer to go live, we have those business representatives test the new space and the new systems. They validate the scope and the requirements, and they sign that off for our project sponsor. So we've got everything in the new building. We've got computers set up, the desks set up, and the business leaders either do it themselves or have someone from their teams test these new setups, make sure that they're all okay to go, and they give the okay. Happy days. And now we have they give that to us so that we can give that to the project sponsor. That is validating the scope, and that's a sign off from them that we're okay to go ahead and proceed. And so we move in those first few teams first in that pilot approach that we decided way back when at the very beginning of our project, our iterative approach where we're iterating with a few pilot teams first, and then we've got our one big bang for the rest of the teams to go in. So we find a few issues when they move in. That's a good thing. And we improve those as we're iterating and sort of improving before the final go live. Now we communicate the final go live and the move-in plan. What does everyone have to do? Where do they need to go? We communicate that to everyone, organize the move-in, and we send our final project update. And there might be a warranty period of say 2 to 4 weeks once they've moved in, just to iron out any final issues. We make sure that the business leaders are available for those and any appropriate other project resources for improving those once they've gone live, just in case something goes wrong. It's a bit of a safeguard, just in case, and it can happen, and it definitely does happen. So that is now all of our people are moved in. And that is the change that we've made, and we've gone through all the project management body of knowledge processes to make it happen. I'm so glad you've been through this process with me and learning about this as part of making a change in your organization, and even just regular business as part of operations in a normal organization as well. This will definitely impact how you do business in the future and help the way that you navigate your career. Thank you for listening to the Introduction to Project Management. Bye for now.